Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, Newport Film, and Half Street Group.
Bartholomew Town.
Senator Reed, thanks for your time today. Obviously,
thank you.
First of all, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I don't have my green on. I
have my green on.
Have to change here.
Yeah.
All right. Look, there's just so many things we could get into right now. Obviously, on a specific level, broadly, conversation on oversight is something that is essential. The Dr. Alawi situation is hyper-local here to Rhode Islanders, obviously of concern to anybody who's looking at what appears to be, at minimum, a clunky situation. A federal court this morning basically said, we're stopping these proceedings. The procedural method in which this detention took place was not properly executed. There's that, but there's also concerns about political dissidents being targeted as part of the Trump regime's overall efforts with migrant management. This was supposed to be, hey, we're going to go find criminals who are undocumented and deport them. It seems like it's slipping. What's the latest? What can you tell us about the Dr. Alawi situation?
Well, the Dr. Alawi situation is at this moment in the hands of a federal district judge in Boston. He issued the order to stop her deportation. That order was not executed, and so he quite properly scheduled a hearing today in which he brought the immigration services together with the doctor's attorneys. And there are two issues here, at least. One is, did the Immigration and Naturalization Service follow the law? And two, is it legal to deport the doctor back to Lebanon? The judge's reaction this morning was to continue the case, that he has not definite information that either the procedure was wrong or they willfully disobeyed the order. And I think it's where it should be in a court of law. And the judge, I believe, will act swiftly, but he'll do so based on a record of the facts. And I hope within a few days we'll have a conclusive evidence of what transpired, who was responsible, who was at fault. And most importantly, you suggested by a question, is was it legal? Because what the Trump administration has done persistently is ignored the law, violated the law in so many different cases, and that can't be tolerated in a free society.
It seems like so much of their operation is based on extrajudicial practices or sort of magic versions of what they view to be civics. I mean, in a straightforward sense. Beyond this one case, which is the Brown Daily Herald is reporting as of this morning that Dr. Alawi was detained because she had photos on her phone that were sympathetic to Hezbollah. Okay, we'll see how this plays out. But beyond that, I mean, you see what's happening at Columbia, two people detained. Do you get the sense right now that there's a situation unfolding where political dissidents on issues, maybe it's even an issue that is something that you don't necessarily agree with, I mean, we can get into that, but do you sense that there's a moment here, particularly immigrants who are in opposition to the administration's political or sociological viewpoints, are in danger? Brown just said international students and community members ought not travel abroad because there's concern about this. What's your take?
Well, I think what President Trump has done is basically unleashed, more or less, the immigration authorities and has urged them to do more and more and more and more. So the pressure from the top is don't be careful. You know, we're counting numbers, not we're counting legal infractions, and that I think is motivating a lot of the activities of the Immigration and Naturalization Service and other federal departments. It's not appropriate. I think, what people wanted was to reinforce the immigration authorities with personnel and resources, identify and go after those people who are here illegally, and particularly deport those who have criminal activities in their records. And that's something I think most people would say makes sense. But this is just becoming rapidly a sort of a game of numbers, I think, rather than of the status of the individual.
Right. One startling thing is the notion of using Guantanamo Bay. Obviously, we talk about extrajudicial, but I read a statistic that there were 30,000 available beds there. I mean, we've already seen that Tom Homan and, people in ICE costumes, secretaries in dressing in police gear and things like this. It's very performative. It's made for television. Yeah. Literally, we've got Fox News cameras out there, and they've been embarrassed. They've been unable to really get out and do what maybe some people have fantasized they would, which is a military-style operation that would quickly round up criminal immigrants. Now you have all these beds at Guantanamo. It leaves open the question of what are you going to do with them? And next up would possibly be American dissidents. And it seems dystopian, it seems unfathomable, yet here we are in a moment where you have Elon Musk in a professional wrestling style costume in the Oval Office. Yeah. We've seen so much that it doesn't seem on your tip. What can you as a senator do to protect everybody, Americans, immigrants, from this type of dystopian reality?
Well, first, Trump has brought down sort of the level of civility, of respect for the law tremendously over his first term, his interregnum, and now his second term. And what we have to do is reinvigorate the institutions which are a check on him. The first one are the courts. The problem with the courts, though, it takes time because there's a process of appeal. And frankly, I think Trump's been in court every day since he was about 21 years old. See, that's the way he plays the game. Eventually, though, it will reach the Supreme Court, and they will have to stand up, I hope, for the Constitution. In the meantime, in the Senate, we have to be able to mobilize some of our Republican colleagues to recognize what, in private, I think they believe, where this is excessive, this is dangerous, particularly when it gets into the issues of American citizens and their status and what they should do. So that's our effort. Our effort is to just be as outspoken as we can to get them to come along, either speak out or vote properly. It's a challenge, though, because Trump lives in chaos, lives in a world of revenge, and it is intimidating in a very little sense, many of my colleagues. And that is something that no president I've ever seen before has done.
It does seem like we're brewing for an historic moment between popular opinion. Again, I mean, an NBC News poll has 47% of those polled approve of Donald Trump. So it's not like his approval rating has slipped to 5% or something. Yet we see these town hall meetings where there's clearly, and again, are these people at these town hall meetings necessarily Trump voters that have changed their mind in a less than 2-month span? I don't know. We can assume that not all of them are Trump supporters. Yet there's definitely, even privately, here in Rhode Island, we hear it. I'm sure you do. We all hear it all the time from people who are registered Republicans that are going, what is going on? And it's just a matter of how can you flip enough senators to create that oversight piece. Do you think that that's something that Americans can bank their hope on, or should everybody be looking at this from the long game, the James Carville model of let it implode, let it get to the Supreme Court, and hope that the court itself is the last vestige of democracy?
I don't think we can abandon any option. I think we have a duty to do what we think is right, what is constitutionally appropriate. And again, he's shown so much contempt, really, for the Constitution, from following laws, that we can't just sit back idly. So we have to engage too. But the problem is, with a House that's under very firm Republican control and with a Senate without a Democratic majority, we have to get some cooperation from the Republicans. And so far, that has been very scarce. Some have stood up, and it's been difficult for them, and I respect them for that. Others should have and did not.
To be determined, and it's just such a critical, I mean, this is the framers' vision and being tested right here. And for all of those constitutional conservatives that, you hear Mike Lee speak, again, disagree politically on issues, but you hear him speak of a reverence for the Constitution, a reverence for the machine itself. here it is. This is your moment.
No, and it's surprising they're not as sensitive to these issues as they should be, given their past oratory about the Constitution and all these things. This could come down to a Supreme Court decision, and then the question is, will he follow the decision or not? At that point, the only other constitutional remedy is impeachment. But we've been through 2 sagas with him on impeachment. The second one, frankly, if that's not an example of high crimes and misdemeanors directing a mob to attack Congress when it's performing a constitutional duty, then I don't know what is.
Right.
And I think that has given him a sense also, too, in this term of invincibility. The fact that, there are even more Republicans there now, and more that are his proteges in some respects, and also the Supreme Court case giving him immunity, the president immunity. All that sort of goes to his head, and he says, they can't touch me. And
right.
That is unfortunate. I think the Supreme Court, as it was designed to be or evolved to be, is going to be a key factor in this whole equation. And you're right. The question is, will the constitutional order survive?
The question rises to the level of what is stupidity in some of his remarks. Last night I saw a Truth Social post that the Biden pardons are heretofore irrelevant because they were signed with an auto pen, and in all caps, the worst president of all time or whatever it is had no idea what he was even doing. To put that out in public, in tandem with the Department of Justice speech that we saw on Friday, which, by the way, we aired in its entirety live on WPRO, in spite of people calling up and saying, what are you doing? We can't take this.
Yeah.
We knew that had to go out to people to realize this is it. We're going to be a mirror for what's happening. How do you deal with this as someone who
there's method to the madness. This is a deliberate attempt to keep a chaotic situation, because in chaos it's hard to react to something wrong, because something happens immediately that's also wrong. And he's always sort of operated in this way because it tends to give him more clout. He can say something outrageous, etc. I mean, our foreign policy has become grotesque in some respects, because you look at some of these incidents. I mean, it first began with the King of Jordan, where he stood up with the king, who's our staunchest ally in the Middle East. He's a remarkable individual. And he basically said, I'm going to clean out all the Palestinians from Gaza. It's called ethnic cleansing, which is against the law. And then you have to take 1 million of them. And he's not prepared to do that. And to do it publicly is an embarrassment. But then, of course, with Zelensky, it went way beyond that. It was like a vaudeville show. Where in a meeting between 2 presidents does the vice president have the opportunity to interrupt? Where do you have reporters who are from clearly have a right-wing agenda and not very proud of it, and asking questions that are irrelevant?
Well, about the suit.
The suit, exactly.
Nonsense.
It's just, but that's the kind of behavior that he continues to perform. And some of it, I think, is just his temperament, which is not presidential by any stretch of the imagination. Some of it is calculated in terms of the chaos and disruption. And a lot of it is just incoherent in some respects, because, these tariffs against Canada and Mexico, they're going to raise inflation, not lower it. They're going to antagonize economic partners over the last several decades, and they're not going to benefit working Americans much at all. In fact, they'll probably harm them. But he's got this real what's the word? I have one, but I'm not going to use it. He is over infatuated with tariffs. He thinks tariffs is the magic bullet for all international affairs, and frankly, it's not. Then, the behavior with our allies is such that you have them all questioning whether we would be there when they need them. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think coming over the horizon is countries beginning to think about, well, do we need nuclear weapons? Because our American umbrella is no longer there. That would be a colossal tragedy, because the more nuclear powers, the more accidents might happen, and that would be not or deliberate activities.
It's almost as if these economic policies, sure, you see the stock market fluctuations and you see things that are leading indicators of recession, and sure, all of that's there, no question about it. And there's macroeconomic discussions we could have on that all day. But on just a practical level, the world's changed. I mean, the BRIC alliance is a formidable alliance, and economic alliances with free trade, with the flow of intellectual property, with strategic alliances around climate. I mean, all of these things, it's a changed environment. Thomas Friedman's The World is Flat in 2000, that's almost an irrelevant book now. We've gone to a whole new version of globalization. We're just going to get left behind. At some point, our allies are going to say, exactly as you said, we're better off creating partnerships of a variety of exchanges with other nations. And as militarization in places like Russia, China, India, I mean, who knows where else, when we're talking about other mid-level powers, those alliances can become adversarial to the U.S. on a military, and our hegemony militarily is threatened by this. It's incredible.
No, my friend and professor Joe Nye at Harvard Kennedy School created the term soft power, which is a very effective way to communicate. Okay, you have military forces, but they only do so much, and only in certain circumstances. The biggest leverage you might have is soft power. And by taking apart USAID, for example, we've lost it. And what's happening is, in Africa particularly, you're seeing radical groups moving in now because the government is not as friendly with the United States, or simply people are saying, why did they leave us, abandon us? They used to help us, and we needed the help. And then you're just, our presence is gone, and China is growing, et cetera. And it's a very, it's a foreign policy that makes little sense and is potentially very destructive to the United States. And also, as you suggest, this could be the end of the post-World War II international order, which was formulated by the United States, resting on international cooperation, both military with NATO and with other alliances, economic free trade growing, and providing the United States for 70 years plus years of economic growth and prosperity. One of the ironies, of course, of this administration is, we had the strongest economy in the world when Joe Biden left the presidency. Now we're in a situation where our economy is beginning to really shudder. There's a possibility of recession. There's inflation from these tariffs, inflation from other activities, and generally what business hates, uncertainty, is abounding. And we, that's what. Why are you going to invest capital if you don't know next year if there's going to be even further tariffs on this country, et cetera?
We're also in a moment, you talk about Africa, and you look at the amount of Chinese bases that are now on the west coast of Africa. Sure, there's an ocean there, but we're heading into outer space. We're heading into terra incognito, or maybe not terra incognito, spatial incognito, and we don't even know what the landscape is going to look like.
Well, first of all, in terms of Africa, the Chinese have a very strong diplomatic presence in West Africa. They have a base in Djibouti, which is in East Africa near Yemen, essentially. But they are looking for, and we're very, very conscious of the fact they're looking for a naval base on that side, which would be a strategic problem for us. Then you go into space now, and it's a whole new theater of conflict, and we are building up. We created the Space Force. That I think that was good, and we're also now trying to align ourselves more coherently with our allies. Again, here's another, sort of what the heck. We have been partners with Canada in NORAD for probably 60 years. They provide radar bases, etc. They feed into our system so we could detect a launch coming over the pole from Russia, Soviet Union in the battle days. They want to be more together with us, to invest in us in air defense systems, in space defense systems, etc. But at the same time, we're going ahead and mocking them as the 51st state, and etc. That's not helping us strategically or in any other way.
Bartholomew Town.
Birds are disappearing from our landscape at a rapid pace. Over 1/3 of those breeding on Audubon Society of Rhode Island's wildlife refuges are in decline. Climate change has taken a toll on their migration, nesting, and food sources. While science is highlighting the problem, Audubon is working on real solutions with a plan to rapidly reduce their carbon emissions. The organization will be free of fossil fuels by 2030, with renewable energy powering Audubon's buildings, equipment, and vehicles. To shape our future, all of us must act. Learn more about repowering Audubon, their avian research, and how you can join their fight for climate resiliency. Visit asri.org/repower. Newport Film screens the latest, critically acclaimed documentary films year-round across Rhode Island. Like a film festival, Newport Film often gets early access to films before they're available online or in the theaters. Stay up to date on their latest screening events at newportfilm.com or on Instagram @NewportFilm. Are you looking to advance in your career or explore a new field? The University of Rhode Island now offers a comprehensive portfolio of fully online programs designed to bring world-class education to you anytime, anywhere. Choose from a wide range of flexible, asynchronous programs in business and leadership, data, tech, and STEM, healthcare and pharmacy, marine and environmental science, and more. With expert faculty and innovative courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge to thrive in today's competitive world. Are you ready to take the next step? Visit uri.edu/online and discover how URI Online can help you achieve your goals. URI Online, learn anywhere with us. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communication, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. We're in the shadow of the Dorcas International Institute, one of the leading organizations in the state providing care and fulfilling the American promise for refugees in particular, but immigrants in general. Saw a Boston Globe article this morning, Steph Machado, talking about they had to lay off a goodly amount of staff because of cuts.
Right.
That's just one example. URI, major cuts in research because of the USAID. Here we are trying to cement our position in blue tech and the blue economy writ large on a global basis. We're making cuts. I mean, it goes on and on. The damage from the social service being slashed and frankly, just it seems like regardless of what court outcomes may or may not occur, the morale shift inside of our the extra governmental layers that make our government work, something like Dorcas. What can be done here, oversight-wise?
Well, I mean, we are trying to, through the courts, get the money restored, and trying ourselves to get money out of the system. This is one area, though, where it might be a path to more Republican cooperation, because it's not happening just here in Rhode Island. It's happening all over. There are farmers in the Midwest who had $1 million contracts with USAID, and now it's sorry. So that's beginning to affect, and for example, the cuts in NIH, which affect Brown University system, all of our hospitals, they're also being felt down in Alabama. And my colleague down there, Katie Britt, she's trying hard to see if there's a way through this. So those are some of the effects. But, it's frankly a scorched earth policy. And you're right. Once these social service agencies sort of dissolve, it'll be hard to reconstitute them. And that's going to be difficult. And they do remarkable work, much more than, there's much larger benefit than their cost for the things they do. That's one of the things about this whole DOGE effort. They have never made a serious attempt at doing a cost-benefit analysis on anything. They just look at how much does this cost, okay, get rid of it. And as a result, you've probably seen these articles too, NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Agency, they're responsible for the custody and technical operations of our nuclear weapons stockpile. Very dangerous. You don't want an accident, etc. And they laid these people off, and then they discovered 2 days later they needed them back desperately because they were in danger of compromising the nuclear stockpile. So that's just dumb. And they're doing that constantly, left and right. And then some won't come back. They'll just say, I don't want that anymore. I've got better opportunities. So there's no... If there was an analysis by a credible group of people looking at cost and benefits, sure, there are some governmental programs that you could end, and probably should. But you've got to do it based on analysis, not on just whim.
Yeah, it reminds me of one time, of all people, Donald Rumsfeld. I saw an interview with him, and he was describing a military theory of ready, fire, aim. This feels like where we're at.
No, I think, I had my dealings with Secretary Rumsfeld, but he was right on that point, because that happens often. It happens everywhere, but it happens in government too, a lot.
Localizing some of this stuff. People are concerned about funding to things like the Washington Bridge. We had the Rhode Island League of Charter Schools on earlier last week, talking about what the impact would be to public education as a whole if you abolish the Department of Education. I mean, I can't believe we've been saying these things out loud. Yeah. But specifically with the Washington Bridge project, it's a bad situation. I don't think it's fair to ask you to dissect that on any level. Your take on it overall is certainly welcome, but particularly from the standpoint of funding for this project, I mean, geez, I mean, how do we move forward?
This is a central project, and we worked very hard and very rapidly to secure $500 million, which was what the state asked for, and we filled the whole bill. We believe and we insist that these grants have to be fulfilled. We have to do it on a constant basis with the Department of Transportation. We have to work with the state. Our position is, send us the money because it's ours. If that is disrupted in any way, the bridge will be rebuilt. It's just too valuable a property not to. And that requires a lot of flexibility with the state. They have Garvey Fund, which is a means of funding. They can move money. One of the good things that happened in the Biden administration is the infrastructure plan. So there's a lot of projects that are stacked up, and they have the commitment already. They could try to reprogram that money and do other things. But our goal is to do what we thought we had done, which is to get the $500 million.
When you look at Rhode Island politics right now, it's an interesting landscape. And again, not getting into whether or not you want to endorse Governor McKee or anything like that right now. I mean, if you do, feel free. I mean, but I just don't know that is productive use of time. But there are some interesting players in the race or theoretical race for governor. Obviously, McKee's the only one who's announced. Your name comes up all the time with respect to the governor's race because of the speaker's potential intention, Speaker Shekarchi, his potential intention to run for governor, but he also is oftentimes floated as a senatorial candidate if he can convert his $3 million into federal money.
Yeah.
So are you going to stick around for another term? Because I think that's a big domino piece in Rhode Island politics.
It is, and my intention is to seek another term. I've been working at it. I think one aspect of this is, I guess it's, growing up and going off to West Point, you don't leave a fight in the middle of the fight, and this is a heck of a fight. And I think I still can be constructive, et cetera. So it's my intention to work hard and hopefully win the support of the people of Rhode Island.
What's your overall message to somebody? Say if somebody comes up to you at a grocery store, the famous Rhode Island politician, elected official interaction, Stop and Shop. Somebody comes up to you and says, "I'm scared right now." What do you say?
I ultimately trust the wisdom of the American people. Sometimes it takes a while to focus, but it usually comes through when the chips are down. That's one aspect of this. Two, we have structures under the Constitution that are checks on this type of excessive power. And hopefully the courts will step in appropriate, as they are at the local, lower levels, the district and the circuits. That's one aspect of this. And then two, I think, going back to the notion of the American people, when you see these town hall meetings in Kansas and other places, and they're upset, that's sending a message. And, right now, particularly my Republican colleagues are torn between the Trump organization, which is very intimidating, and the folks back home. And gradually, the folks back home, I think, will have more and more influence on them as the situation, unfortunately, gets worse in so many different areas. So it's, this is tough times, but we've come through tough times before, and we'll do it this time.
Senator Reed, thanks for your time. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much,
Really
Bill.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomew Town. For more content, follow me on Instagram @Bill Bartholomew.